All right, let's get into our second lesson of this second half. Today we're going to learn how to multiply, working on that again, fractions by fractions. Write this down with today's date and page number. All right, and here's your warm-up. Just a couple questions. I want you to find half of something, so it's just a hint at multiplying there, and 2 of quarter of something. Come back when you're done. And here are the answers to your warm-up. So half of 12 is 6, half of 100 is 50, half of 120 is 60, 1/4 of 100 is 25, 4 25s make 100, and 4 120s make 480. All right, now that we're warmed up, let's get into our lesson today. Now if we go back to our previous lesson, we learned how we could make models to be able to show how to multiply fractions, and we did the actual math part of it. Well, we don't really need to make a model here. We can just make the fraction. Let's say we were given 1/4 times 1/3. So for multiplying, what you do is you multiply the numerators across, multiply the denominators across, and then put your answer in simplest form. So 1 times 1 is 1, 4 times 3 is 12. So this is actually in simplest form. But one thing I want you to notice as we move forward today, when we're dealing with two fractions, which are two numbers that are smaller than a whole, when you multiply those two numbers together, your product, being the answer, is always going to be smaller than the original two fractions. So if you look here, we had 1/4 and 1/3. When you multiply them together, you now get 1/12, which is a much smaller fraction. Copy this down as an example before moving on. All right, here's a problem for us to look at here in our example. So again, we have 1/4 times 2/5. It's real simple to multiply. Multiply the numerators, 1 times 2, and multiply the denominators, 4 times 5. Now when we do that, we get 2/20. We have to make sure our answers are always in simplest form. So when you see 2/20, you have to think to yourself, they're both even, so I could divide them both by 2. And if that's the case, when you do 2 divided by 2, you get 1, and 20 divided by 2, you get 10, and that's how your answer is simplified to 1/10. I really encourage you to copy this down along with the blue directions on the side before moving on. All right, here's another one to look at. So you can see that for 7/5 times 4/5, you should be able to do 5 times 4, which gives you 20. Let's go ahead and write that down. 5 times 4 equals 20. And 7 times 15, which makes 105. We have our fraction of 20 105ths. Now, what number do they have in common that you could simplify? They end in a 0 or a 5, so we know that 5 would work for both of these. So 20 goes into 5 4 times, and 5 goes into 105 21 times. And because they don't share anything else, 4/21 is your simplest form of the answer. Okay, your choice if you want to write this down or not, just showing you an example. All right, here's another one where we have 4 times 6 and 9 times 10. Again, 4 times 6 will give you 24. 9 times 10 gives you 90. 24/90. But both of these are even numbers, so we can actually divide them by 2 to be able to get a simpler fraction. So half of 24 is 12. And half of 90 is 45. You probably noticed, too, that 12 and 45 share a common factor, that factor being a 3. So we can actually simplify this even more. 3 goes into 12 4 times, and 3 goes into 45. 3 goes into 4 once, and 3 goes into 15 5 times. So 4/15 would be your final answer. So if you wrote down 24/90, you would only get half credit. You need to simplify it all the way down to 4/15. All right, so I rewrote this problem up here to show you real quick before we move on. There is a way to simplify your work, and I wanted to show you this just briefly. I'll repeat it again in the next following video about multiplication. But there's this thing called cross simplify. That you may want to know. So cross-simplifying means you look across diagonally at the numbers and you see if there's something you can simplify with them. So let's first look at 4 and 10. Is there a factor that 4 and 10 share that you can divide them by equally? You're probably thinking, yeah, you can divide it by 2. So if you can divide 4 by 2, you can also divide 10 by 2, and that will actually make our numbers even smaller. So half of 4 is 2, and half of 10 is 5. And if we look the other way with 9 and 6, you can divide 6 and 9 by 3. So or 6 divided by 3 is 2, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. So by doing this, we've actually already simplified. Let me show you how this gets our work to look a little quicker to the answer. It's actually 2 over 3 times 2 over 5. Now if we look at our work here, 2 times 2 gives you 4. 3 times 5 gives you 15. This is just another way to do it that's a little faster. Just figured I'd show if you want to try that out on your own now, but I'll show you this again as we move on. Just figured it's a neat little trick to make your multiplication a little easier. All right, today for these first example 1 practice problems, all I want you to do today are the evens. We'll leave the odds for if you want to do additional practice with me later. 10, 12, 14, 16. Good luck. So here are the answers I got. Now you'll see with 12, if you look at that one, I did the cross simplifying with the 3 and the 6. I knew that I could divide 3 by 3, so 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 3 also can be divided into 6 2 times. So it actually sped my work up because it was already in simplest form when I went to solve it. If you look at 14, I actually just did it the regular way and had to simplify. So these are the answers I hope you got. All right, so we also have plug and chug problems that you could be given with multiplying. Let's say it said evaluate b times 2/5. Well, if it tells us that b equals 1/3, it's just a plug and chug. So replace b with 1/3. 1/3 times 2/5. 1 times 2 is 2. 3 times 5 is 15. This is how I get 2/15. Copy this down as an example before moving on. All right, so let me show you another one where we have b times 2/5, and we know that b equals 3/8. So let's rewrite this as plug and chug 3/8 times 2/5. Now I do want you to look, cross simplify, and see if there's anything we can simplify. Can we simplify 3 and 5? Is there a number that you can divide both those by? No. But there is for 2 and 8. Since they're both even, we could divide them both by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So we actually have here 3/4 times 1/5. Now it's already simplified. 1 times 3 is 3. 4 times 5 is 20. And it's a quicker way to get to the simplified answer of 3/20. Okay. Let's move on then. One more problem I want to show you. Here we have b times 2/5. So again, plug and chug. So it's going to be 5/7, replace the b, 2/5. And again, let's cross simplify. Can you simplify 2 and 7? Nope, but we can simplify 5 and 5. Whenever the numbers diagonally are the same exact number, you know it's going to be 1 because you can divide it by itself. So now we've redone this to be 1/7 times 2 over 1. Should be pretty easy here. 1 times 2 is 2. 7 times 1 is 7. So that's how you can get 2/7 with this problem. All right, so for example 2, let's do the odd problems with this one since we did the evens last one. So 17, 21, 19, and 23. Remember, they're all going to be times 1/6. You're just going to plug and chug 4/5 times 1/6, 3/4 times 1/6, 8/9 times 1/6, and 5/8 times 1/6. So again, you can try to cross simplify it wherever available. Otherwise, just solve them. Good luck. And here are the answers you should have gotten. Now you can see I cross simplified for all of them. I'll tell you, one thing you probably notice is if you can't cross simplify, you probably aren't going to need to simplify the fraction anyways at the end. It's kind of a little trick to you. So if you got those all right, come on up and give me a high five. All right, you made it to the box of thought. Go ahead and answer these 3 questions as best you can. And here's your quiz. 5 questions I want you to try on your own. Take your time, use some of the little tricks that I've shown you to come up with the right answer. And that's it for today. Hopefully you did well. You don't have any other issues with these. If you do, come see me so we can practice, practice, practice. That's the only way you're going to get better at this. See you next time.